Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. Welcome to the Shout Out Show, the SOS, with me, your host, Reach Moss. I thank you for attending today, and I hope whatever it is or what part of the day you're in, you're having an excellent day. You're joyful and you're thankful. As I am thankful that you've come, that you spend this little bit of time with me here on the SOS. Order of business, please, everybody, click the notify button on YouTube and also click the subscribe button. It's very, very important for what we're trying to do so we can make these broadcasts a little bit larger, a little bit more effective, and reach a broader audience. This is a little thunder here in the back. Don't worry about that. If we go black, I'll get on my phone. So listen, today's topic, I didn't even put a banner out for it. It's such a profound thought that I really had to go inside myself and begin to replay things in my mind about the aspect of, I want to say, economic opportunity. When I say economic opportunity, I'm talking about, in this particular case, for Black Muslim businesses. One of the overlooked, most overlooked, if you will, sound like a brother Bilal, aspects of the Muslim community is the Black Muslim business life or the Black Muslim business enterprise. And the reason is because it gets lumped in with quote unquote Muslim businesses, which are important, but the Black Muslim business enterprise or identity has a very, very specific part of history in the United States. And when I say that, it goes back to something that I'm going to try and make a relationship. I'm going to try and define a business relationship that African Americans and African American Muslims have had in terms of business relationship with America. Martin Luther King said that America had a check, but that check had not been cashed. And in this situation, in this scenario, particularly going off of what I talked about yesterday in terms of extracting value, I really came to this and I wanted to make sure I framed this thing correctly, which is to say, in the Muslim community, for lack of a better word, and to be polished but straightforward, the Black Muslim business person is not valued. They're not properly valued, they're not properly sourced, and in many regards, overlooked. And when I say overlooked, it means that it's this overlooking, meaning that it's not that important right now. I have to do a little bit of a historical allegory to let people know just how important the Black Muslim business was, or the Black Muslim business mindset was for the entire Muslim community, because it actually laid the groundwork. We could talk about the Ahmadiyya, but I want to talk specifically about how important Black Muslim business was coming out of the NOI. The NOI back in the day established something that we haven't had before, which was before them, Blacks did business, but it was specifically under the auspices of how white people treated them, what the marketplace for it was for them, and in many regards, they weren't really allowed to, for lack of a better word, create or define their value. And what we have now, and I'm going to say this right now, we have a little piece where that's just going on right now. We are revisiting, in many regards, on that hamster wheel going around and around, and it's going to come up about Black Muslim businesses. You see, the Nation of Islam did something that was amazing, extraordinary, but still undervalued, underrated. The idea of do for self was to do for yourself as a Black man or a Black woman, do for yourself as a Black community, do for yourself as a collective. They were a collective, and in rare times, the collective was a team, and the team was the collective. And what that means is, for lack of a better word, was that they had a business identity that they had defined for themselves, making their own products, sourcing materials for their own products. The whole idea of Black banks, we hear a lot about Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It grew out of that, and it was a model. But when it got in the 40s and 50s, because you have to realize that Black Wall Street, by the time you got to the 50s, was gone. It had been burned down. But people understood that there was a vitality and there was a high valuation in terms of Black lifestyle and Black productivity. And they caught on to it with Tulsa. What's happened now, particularly in the Muslim community, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to be very kind, is that the Muslim community, when they came and they built enterprise and they built businesses, they weren't really shown that. They really weren't access to the fact that before you came, this is how black folk did business or black Muslims did business, and they did it in a way where it was self-sustaining, meaning they didn't were necessarily tied into industries and things like that, and they established their own value. Black Muslim businesses, when they come here now, they do a bit of a cookie cutter. If it's tech, I'm going to go to tech. If it's medicine, I'm going to go to medicine. And there's not a whole lot of originality. And I'm going to say this nicely. You don't need a whole lot of originality because, for lack of a better word, this thing has already been laid out. Assalamu alaikum. Mr. Noise, what's going on, Robinson? Love you, man. But it's a problem now because here we are in this next quote unquote generation. And this is one of my biggest problems with Black Lives Matter. I have different problems. This is one of the biggest problems with Black Lives Matter. They have enlisted the emotions, the resources, the finances, the collective thought of a lot of people, and they call themselves Black Lives Matter, but they have no financial platform. They have nothing to speak about the aspect of business development for the Black community to lift ourselves up out of this thing. We're talking about a lot of things, of course. We're talking about trends, we're talking about this, we're talking about that. But the denial in their own charter of the other liberation movements, and you can go through all the other Black liberation movements, NOI, Black Panthers, all of that, all of them had something. Civil rights, they all had something, and that was a call to action for economic justice, economic opportunity. In the Muslim community, I say, where's the love? Because we're getting into the same trap, lack of a better word. We're getting into the same trap that Black businesses used to have before. Black businesses said, I'm going to be Black owned and I'm not going to use your loans and things like that. We're falling into this trap where even in the Muslim community, we're good enough to go to the masjid together. We're good enough to protest together. We're good enough to have our kids play together. We're good enough to come to the company picnic. But we don't understand, or we're not talking about, you have a company, show me how you made your company so I can make my company. I don't need your money, I don't need your loans. You know what? You have the knowledge for with. Can you share that with me? And what happens is a general not sharing. It's like working with white America, for lack of a better term, because white America has always treated African Americans, Latinos like this. And there's an old term, don't take it wrong, but it is what it is. My grandmother used to say, good enough, you're good enough to bed, but you're not good enough to wed. Let me say it again. You're good enough to bed, but you're not good enough to wed. Meaning that this is where the relationship stops. Meaning we can't go any further because to go or trend beyond that means that there's a different level of accountability. And all of a sudden it changed the dynamics of the relationship. I talked about yesterday the fact that, and think about this. I read an article that said 41% of Black-owned businesses after COVID will not come back online. They're going to be closed down forever. This added on to the fact that 60% of Black businesses in 2008 with the Great Recession didn't come back online. So you're talking about 40% of whatever, 41% taken out of whatever's left. And this is stunning. And we're talking about it in terms of Black businesses, but Black Muslim businesses, which have a very, very different dynamic because there's an aspect of religiosity that's tied to it. Black Muslim businesses have tied into the scope of what immigrant Muslim businesses have talked about into immigrant Muslim business. I don't know if it's even, I don't even know if that's real, Muslim business, but we've tied into this romanticism that our community, our business was all going to be interchanged. It's all going to be connected. And it just hasn't been that. It hasn't been that. Historically, it has not been that. That's why I said, talking about Black Muslim businesses, where's the love? The love is missing. Brothers and sisters, the love is missing. Many of you know me from Allah Made Me Funny and doing Muslim stand-up. People say, oh, hey, preacher, the OG of Muslim comedy, and you started it and da-da-da. Yeah. But I want you to know, I didn't have a whole lot of support when I first started. Some of the people who hug and give me high fives and slap me on the back, It was the same people that didn't want to give me a hand up, and I didn't want a handout. It's the idea that, you know what, we'll take that idea, but let me see how it works out first. Good enough to bed, not good enough to wed. Well, fortunately, I was blessed that I was already a full-time comedian and I was tied into the mainstream, so it allowed me to do that. But I think about some of the brothers who came behind me, African-American Muslim comedians per se, who had horrible times struggling, trying to get a foothold in the Muslim community. It was okay for me, but when I would try to bring my brothers, there was problems. Oh, we don't like this joke, or he doesn't do that, or I don't know. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Meanwhile, some years later, and I don't want to put the brother out here wrong, I like him. His name is Jeremy McClellan. Funny guy, good guy. He's a Muslim. He's not a Muslim comedian. He's a Christian comedian. Brothers and sisters, if I wasn't here, he might be the leading Muslim comedian in the Muslim community. He might be the top-rated comedian in the Muslim community. Do you hear what I said? And I'm going to tell you, Jeremy McClellan, I like him. Because he tells all the Muslims, look, I'm going to come here, I'm going to joke with you, but he'll tell you right up front, I have no intention, I have no interest in becoming Muslim. I'm going to tell these jokes, I'm going to leave, and I'm going to go back to my lifestyle. And Muslims go, okay. Meanwhile, other Muslims are being dragged through the mud. They're not having any opportunities. This is through leading organizations. I'm talking about our major charitable organizations. A bunch of them have given a lot of African-American brothers, did not give them the love or support, dragged them through the mud. And when they got there, they lowballed them. I'm like, those are facts. I'm not making that up. Let me give a shout out to Sister Jean. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And why is this important? Because it's burying the history and the importance of African-American Muslim business, of Black Muslim business. You see, because coming up out of the first, the idea of the NOI was there was a need for separatism. The NOI, to me and to a lot of other folks, expressed that the relationship with some of these banks, these white banks, these interests, these mortgage people, it was saying, we don't want anything to do with that. Like, we understand that there's some trickery involved in that. There's some backsliding involved in it. We're going to leave it alone. We're going to build our own. We're going to build our own houses. We're going to have our own communities and the like. And it was important because the impetus of them doing that was based on they were following from a religious perspective. Even after the first, when from the first resurrection to the second resurrection, even our businesses still stuck with the code of Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad and the Holy Quran, which is hard to do business, but we did it. It was ethical. It was ethical, but in many regards, it wasn't competitive. And here we are being told that this is the way, this is a sunnah and things like that. We're trying to live that. Meanwhile, in our communities, money and funding would come through for the corner liquor store that was run by a Muslim brother, unfortunately. Might be Somali, might be Arab, might be Syrian. Remember, I did this story, corner store racism. And it was run by that person. And you have to realize that person was able to get a loan quicker than the Black Muslim business. That wasn't even just a Muslim business. They were a feeder. They were trying to feed people, small businesses. We talk about Black Muslim business. Even the business of our religiosity has been compromised. We don't have a society. Show me a handful of Black masjids around the United States that have a full-time imam. All he does is be an imam. I'll wait. I'm finished. I'm back. But now, stop and think about other masjids around the United States. Not only do they have a full-time imam, they have a full-time youth director, they have a full-time school, they have full-time teachers. My question is, how does the economics work so well over there and it doesn't work so well over here? We're talking the same belief systems. We're talking the idea that, yes, let me give a shout out. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister Aika. We're talking the same thing, but how come the economics don't flow? How come this group has stuck to this whole idea of sunnah and ethics and adab? And this group over here, you're telling us to do it, but when we look up, there's no support. We have masjids that have been around fundamentally for years, and we struggle every month to keep the lights on. I went to a masjid in Dearborn. People, let me tell you something. I went to the masjid in Dearborn. It's a Shia mosque. They were dedicating it. I was performing. I'm going to tell you something, folks. They bragged in the car when they picked me up. They bragged in the car. They showed me the masjid. The masjid was $17 million. It was built in 2005. They bragged that it cost $17 million. They ain't have 17 people in it, but $17 million. It's the first time I ever went to a masjid that had valet parking. And then I turned around and went to the masjid over on Ford, and it was barely hanging on. You want to get a hold of that imam, you got to call him at work. The secretary, you got to call him at work because the money's not flowing like that. Let me give I'm trying to answer this question, Sister Satana. Yes. And Brother Jihad, love you, big brother, all the way from Toledo. Get that brother, keep him in your du'as. But what's the difference? What's the difference? We have this whole thing now that is, you got to watch yourself. It's this love fest with black pain and black trauma. And I remember way before George Floyd, and I've told this story. I was leaving Muhammad Ali's janazah, and a brother from one of our organizations walked up to me and like he was rehearsing. The immigrant Muslim can never be successful without his brother. And I'm looking around like, who the hell is he talking to? Without our brother. I'm like, who? He said, black brother. Oh, okay, I got you. And he was rehearsing. And I was like, wow, y'all must be in trouble. But what was really, really important? Really, really, really important. That when this whole George Floyd thing happened, his murder happened. And there was this widespread, I want to say, wellspring of black identity, black wellness. We have to stand with our black brothers and sisters. This is our duty, Islamic duty. I've been to 100 too many live streams about African American Muslims and immigrant Muslims getting together and working. I'm like, look, I might have been born on a Wednesday, but it wasn't last Wednesday. And I sat and listened. And you know what I heard? I heard everything about standing with our brothers, recognizing anti-black racism, fighting anti-black racism, finding the black Sahaba, all these things. But you know what they heard? Hey, black man. Hey, black woman. How can I help you make money? How can I help your masjid that might have cost $100,000 look like the masjid that cost $17 million? How can I help your masjid that feeds a community, tries to feed the children, work with the schools? How can I make that? How can I help that one? This masjid that has 17 million over here, it don't feed anybody. They don't know the community around. It's just $17 million. It looks nice. And the question becomes, have we given ourselves into a trap? I will talk about Black Lives Matter because I think it's important. It's a catch-22. Because if you disagree with Black Lives Matter, people will tell you that you're racist, or of course Black Lives Matter. And you're beginning to see the outlay of the madness now. People are pouring paint over the Black Lives Matter paintings on the street. Black people, white, they're disturbed, and this is what ties into it because folks find themselves in situations where you've made it emotional, and the only way you can get out of it is understanding you're in absolute abject madness. Absolute abject madness. And people aren't asking the questions quietly. John Lewis passed away. Quietly, C.T. Vivian passed away. Passed away. And it reminded me that when King died, or he was assassinated, at the end of his lifespan, his question was not about being equal. He wanted access. He wanted economic opportunity. Don't fool yourself and don't tell your children that he wanted to be equal to white people. That's a damn lie. Because if you looked at the white people at that time, who wanted to be equal to them if you were already better? And I'm not making a racial statement. I'm making a social statement. I'm making a historical statement. Those people were horrible, and we all know it. And if you want to celebrate it, do it on your own damn time, because I'm going to tell you on this show, he was 100% correct. Same thing with Malcolm X. What did they talk about? What did they really get in trouble for? Those messages of economic development and economic empowerment. And they've been lost. This whole thing of, like I said, Black Lives Matter, if you read it, brothers and sisters, they talk about access, inclusion, but you know what they don't talk about? Which may make a lot of liberals and other people happy, is they don't talk about where the money. They don't talk about rebuilding. They talk about defunding the police. How about building your own communities, building your own schools, developing autonomy away from this system that you know doesn't work? I've said it before and I'll say it again. Especially for African Americans and African American Muslims, you have to make a choice. You are tied in, knowingly and unknowingly, to a very inefficient, ill-minded system that has yielded you nothing and will yield you nothing, just like the devil. You know what they say about the devil? Promises you everything and gives you nothing. That's the way I look at the government. Promise you everything and gives you nothing. But I wouldn't put it all on the devil, because at some point in time, you got to believe what people are telling you. That's why they say, you know, it's the American dream, but they don't say it's the American bank balance. Pie in the sky. Who ever had pie in the sky? But I tell you this, there's no pie in the sky, but somebody's making a whole lot of money off of developing the internet. Start tying things together. We're not foolish people. And I would say to the Muslim community, African American businesses are vital. They're not 501c3s but they have a certain essence of keeping community together. Just like the barbershop and the beauty salon and the newspaper stand, they've been there, and traditionally they've delivered in a way that's almost antithetical to what America gives us. Because those spots, they were safe spaces. They were safe zones to talk about how we raise our children, not only how we raise our children, but how we empower them. And now we have situations and scenarios, and this is some of the danger of that leaderless organization, is that they don't talk about that. They talk about their agendas. Their agendas don't match up in terms of the welfare of African Americans, African American businesses, but more so African American lifestyle and esprit de corps. The identity has changed. Who wants to be just people recognized as protesting, as opposed to being people who are producing? So let me say this. I remember a story one time, and this is first started Allah Made Me Funny. I think this story happened in 2004, I believe. Allah Made Me Funny got hired to perform at a huge festival. We got there, the place was sold out. People were there to see us. Big theater. We went up, did a great show. I signed contracts. You know, I did it the right way, people. I signed contracts. I made sure we did everything according to the contract. And this might be a summary of how sometimes Black Muslim businesses are seen or perceived. The show was over. I got the check. I paid the guys out of my own pocket. I went to deposit the check at my mother's bank, BB&T, in Atlanta, Maryland. And the sister came from behind the booth while I was waiting to get paid. And she said, Brother Moss, I can't cash this. And I'm like, what's the problem? I said, they don't have enough money in the account. I said, that's no problem. I'll give them a call. This sister said, no, it's worse than that. I said, what do you mean they don't have enough money in the account? The sister said, Don't worry about enough money in the account. She said, this account is closed. And I said, what? She said, the account is closed. And when I called the brother to let him know, he told me, yeah, I know. Don't worry about it. Good enough to bed, not good enough to wed. Now, to flash forward and let you know, I don't spoiler alert, I got my money. But I got my money because I had to threaten a person. And I don't want to say like I'm a gangster. I'm not, but I was ticked off. So it naturally was in my voice. I'm heated. I want my money. But it was the casualness and the laissez-faire of how the person talked to me like, you know what? I'm doing real business and I'll get to you a little bit later. Well, Black Muslim businesses can't afford for the rest of the Muslim community and non-Muslim community to worry about us. We need to be supported. We need to be highlighted. All these Muslim charities, you know who they are. Islamic Relief, Helping Hand, all the ICNAs, Penny Appeal, all those folks. You love Black folks so much, support our businesses. Care, Impact, Emerge, love all our Black folks so much, support our businesses. You know, I'm going to wrap up on this, and it hurts me to even talk about it. But I'm going to tell you what Black businesses, Black Muslim businesses have been going through for a lot of years. In the city of Chicago, where Imam Wafdi Muhammad lived, they used to have a conference, a big conference on Labor Day. Big conference. And they've been there for years, you know, all the way back to Savior's Day. They've been there for years, brothers and sisters. And a group came. The group's name was ISNA. You know the story. And ISNA decided to have their conference on the same weekend. Same weekend. And the Imam, being who he was, said, go ahead and take it. And we went through this space where there was even hope that we were going to combine combine all of the conventions together, and we're going to be one group. And it never happened. What happened was that venue was booked out for years. In the Imams Conference, the Mosque's community, the W. Muhammad community, never saw the Rosemont Horizon Center ever again. And when we have our conference, it's nowhere near Chicago. You have to go through traffic. I think it's Harvey, Illinois. It might as well be Hale City for all its work because it's so freaking far away to the point that people are inconvenienced. If you fly into Chicago, you got to put another hour, 15 minutes just to get to this venue, just to be way out to have a conference. And as a result, the conference, you know what, because it was so far away from Chicago, it dwindled. It's not what it was. And nobody from the ISNA group or the Kojic group or the Muslim organizations, I never saw them get in their car and drive out to Harvey, Illinois and support that conference. Come out, bring a speaker, buy a book, buy a kufi. Never seen it before. And so my point here, as I wrap up, is look at the statistics. Look at the statistics. 41% of Black-owned businesses will not be returning as a result of COVID. What do you think the number is for Black Muslim-owned businesses? Exactly. We don't even have a statistic. They could go away and we would never know. Well, brothers and sisters, I'm a Black Muslim business owner. And I'm telling you the situation is dire. And I'm telling everybody out here, and I'm going to take this broadcast and I'm going to send it all the groups that love Black people so much. You know, we love your culture. We love Malcolm. We love Muhammad Ali. We kind of love Imam Wafdi Muhammad. Not a lot of love for Elijah Muhammad. Definitely no love for the Honorable Mr. Farrakhan. I'm just keeping it real. But why don't you reach out? Sponsor something without trying to extract something. Say, hey, you know what, brother? I'm going to support your event and I don't want anything back. Not, I'm going to support your event, but I want your masjid to come up underneath my group of masjids. I've heard that over and over again. You know, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an individual person. Allah has blessed me to be a comedian, a comic, but I'm not a clown. I'm a businessman. And I'm going to say this. And I'm talking about supporting Black Muslim businesses. You know what they support? They support CDCs. I'm not talking about CDCs. They need help. They have a vital role. But I'm talking about the person trying to sell windows, or the Black man trying to sell tires, or the Black man trying to sell his own insurance, or the Black man with the clothes, all of that. I remember the Nation of Islam when they used to sell fish sandwiches. But it's even a better story than just the fish sandwiches. They went and bought the fish. They had an industry, brothers and sisters. And now, just like our masjids in some regards, the Black Muslim business is just hanging on. And if you think the cavalry is coming, you're quite the optimist. So I am going to make this a call to action. I'm going to give a shout out to Ma'am Tariq. Thank you, brother. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And I'm going to make this a call to action. This will be a call to action from the Shout Out Show, from Preacher Moss. And I'm going to ask everybody here, if you get a chance, always say subscribe, click the link. Oh, no. I want you to share this video. If you can't share the video, take bits and pieces in your mind, put it in your conversations, and make this discussion a lot bigger, because I know how it works. Oh, if Preach said that, he was joking. Hell no, I wasn't joking. I was dead serious. Let's make the conversation real. Let's make the conversation valid. I got a brother on here, Brother Ziad from Toledo. You know what? I'll always go to Toledo and perform for this brother. You know why? Because he took me around one time and I saw Black people in positions of opportunity. Black people in positions that were doing things, but weren't just busy work. They had a role, they bought skills, and they were compensated. Or you could say they can be compensated once they build that skill. And that's the relation we need to have. There was no extraction of value, brothers and sisters. It was no cost of business. When I say no cost of business, doesn't mean we don't do business. It means that I want you to do the best business you can, and I won't do anything to take away from that. So, brothers and sisters, that's the end of it. I got to bounce. I hope everybody had a good time today. I know it's a real topic, but it was a topic that doesn't bother me. It's been bothering me really for the last 7-8 years. You know, when I have to go and I have to see my people in the bazaar not doing well, not being supported. We come from a long line of people who say you got to speak up. Well, I just spoke up. And let this be a call to action. I appreciate you, everybody. If I said anything wrong, you know that's from me. May Allah forgive me. And if I said anything correct, it's only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has a true wisdom, true hikmah, and true compassion. Everybody have a great day. We'll be back tomorrow, inshallah.